Daffy Did It is a brilliantly written, very surprising Baby Looney Tunes episode. There's something that happens in this, but it's a spoiler, so I'll discuss it at the end with a spoiler warning, but I really didn't see it coming. This is the first segment of the 23rd episode of the first season of Baby Looney Tunes, and in a rather amusing thing, the babies are playing with a ball, and Tweety hits the ball and it bounces off of Granny's butt, just perfectly executed, and it made me laugh. And Granny asks who's responsible, and Tweety, in a moment of panic, says it's Daffy, which is fair enough. Daffy usually does things, naughty things and gets the blame for things. But it is unusual for Tweety to do something wrong, i.e., lying about being responsible. So I thought that was quite interesting, but it shows that Tweety is just desperate to be liked by Granny and doesn't want to do anything to upset Granny or get into trouble, and that makes them lie. And throughout it, Daffy gets into trouble for loads of different things that Tweety is actually doing. And, well, will Tweety ever tell the truth, or will Daffy get blamed for everything? Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, the message there is don't blame other people, just own up, be responsible. Granny makes it very clear when she's giving Daffy into trouble that all that matters is that he learns his lesson and makes amends. And Daffy has various opportunities to do this, and Daffy, to his credit, just goes along with it, I think, because he's, used to getting into trouble, and it's easier than arguing and trying to convince Granny that he didn't do wrong. And I think that was an interesting thing, because quite often if a child is routinely naughty, then even if they didn't do something, it's very easy for other children to blame them and for adults to just assume that it must have been them. So that's something that I think is worth thinking about. Tweety is adorable in this, of course, but so was Daffy, and I really felt for Daffy. I didn't like to see him getting into trouble for something he didn't do. And it's hard to see Tweety doing things so wrong, because Tweety's such a likable, sweet, innocent character that it's very different, and it works very well. And at the end, I loved it. So, a spoiler from now, I'm going to discuss what happens at the end, but also really interesting. For the most part, there are no other babies in this, and when they're in it, they don't have a big role to play, which I thought was quite fascinating as well. But it works really well with just focus on Granny, Daffy, and Tweety. But at the end of this episode, so spoilers from now, I'm going to discuss what happens at the end. And at the end, Granny is giving out cake to everybody, and she gives 2 to Tweety for being such a good helper and, helping out Daffy when Daffy had the opportunity to make amends. And then she thanks Daffy for his amazing performance, and it turns out that Granny and Daffy were working together the entire time just to see how long it would take Tweety to crack, which I have to say is quite sly, but I really enjoyed it and thought it worked quite well. I didn't see it coming, and I found that to be quite amusing and something that's a real credit to the episode. Really great message about not blaming other people, about taking responsibility and owning up, and credit to Granny for never really giving the person into trouble, only ever giving them the opportunity to make amends, which I think is a really sensible way of doing things. Very, very well written episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed Daffy Did It.